Help your clan in Clan v Clan. Hello, everyone. Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and it is everyone's favorite celebration, Clan v Clan. If you don't celebrate, I certainly apologize, but those of us that do celebrate Clan v Clan, merry Clan v Clan, or is it happy Clan v Clan? I guess it depends on what side of the ocean you're on. But we are here to talk about how you can put your best foot forward for your clan in Clan v Clan. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the best ways to get points. Particularly, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the early game, but I will mention some of the late game options as well, because honestly they're not necessarily too different, but there's a few things that are certainly going to be easier for you to do as an early game account that you certainly would be not more likely to do later. So let's take a look at the points. Let's take a look at Clan v Clan points in general and look at some of the areas where you can focus to get the most out of your Clan v Clan experience. All right, so again, we are on my free-to-play account here just to kind of talk about it from an early game perspective. But most of these tips are going to work no matter what level of Clan v Clan you're doing and what level your account is doing. As far as all these points go, every week there is, well, not every week, but every challenge, there is a 2 times on each of these. There's usually 3 of them. So Potion Keeps are currently a 2 times. Iron Twins is currently a 2 times, and Forge Objectives is a 2 times. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you may want to choose to focus on some of those. Now, I will let you know right now, Potion Keeps is one of the worst areas you can certainly dive into, although 2x makes it okay-ish. Minotaur is another one that's kind of hard to justify just from a pure points perspective. But again, it does depend on what you're doing. First of all, the biggest tip I can give you for Clan v Clan is to just play Raid. Yes, there's some things you may want to do differently. Yes, there's some things that I recommend saving for Clan v Clan. But honestly, most of Clan v Clan gives you points for just playing the game. Again, we go back to Potion Keeps, we go back to Minotaur. If you actually have to do a little bit of Potion Keep diving, well, maybe Clan v Clan happens to be an okay time for you to do it. Or at least it's one of these things where at least you're getting something extra out of it because you have to dive in there for a little bit. Now, because it's always on the same days of the week, you're not going to be able to farm some of the potions. Specifically, you'll never be able to farm Void, and I think you will struggle with whichever one starts on, well, you'll struggle with basically anything that doesn't start on Tuesday and end on Wednesday. So some of them you're only going to get a few hours at the evening, some of them you're only going to get a few hours in the morning for CVC. You will get a chance to do 3 of the 4 potion keeps, or at least the affinity potion keeps at least. So there is that. But in general, you look at these things and you wonder, well, Bront, how can I tell exactly how many points I can earn in some of these things? Well, that is where the subjective tabs comes in, and this is actually very, very useful. So we look here, and you can see here, getting champions. This is why summoning champions is great. So getting a legendary champion is worth 10,000 points. Getting a new legendary champion is 20,000 points. So that is 30,000 points for a new champion. And this is actually why saving champions from fragments can be very, very valuable, because that's 30,000 points you can get pretty instantly. It is very good for a late game push if you decide to do some of the late pushing in CVC, or you can certainly just, pull them early and get the points and hope to just put some distance between you and the other clan pretty quickly. Upgrading champions is very good, so champion training is not a bad thing to do here. Now, these are not amazing points for them, but again, you'll get level up points, you'll get, of course, the rank up points, and if you're doing this outside of the tavern, you'll also get points for the campaign or dungeon you're running as well, and that's kind of an important point for a little bit later for what you might want to do. Ascending champions gets you some points as well. Again, not a ton, but you know what? You need to ascend people anyway, so why not wait till this, especially if you can get a champion training event going at the same time, particularly champion training tournament where you get points for this. Getting the ascension, and again, legendary ascensions, 2,500 for the level 6 ascension. That's not too bad. So ascending a couple legendaries during CVC, not a bad way to go. Looking here at some of these other points, we can certainly see why some things are worth more and worth less. Potion Keeps. Farming level 20 is only 80 points. Now, from an energy perspective, level 20 is still a lot of energy, so Potion Keeps, not particularly great. Minotaur, very similar problem. Farming 15 is 80 points, not particularly great. That said, if you're training champions in there as well, you get some of the champion training points. And again, there are worse things to do than Minotaur, because at least you're earning some CVC points in there. But if overall, it is probably not a very good efficient use of your energy. We've got the different dungeons here, and for the most part, the dungeons are nearly identical other than Dragon, I should say. Dragon is worth about half as many points as the other dungeons. So I would avoid farming Dragon of any of the normal dungeons beyond anything else. So, for example, here I can farm, on this account, I can farm stage 6 of the Dragon's Lair on hard. Well, if I were doing Ice Golem, I would get more points for farming stage 20, and it would be less energy as well. So I would be better off farming Ice Golem 20 than I would Dragon Hard 6 from a pure points perspective. Again, there may be other reasons. For example, if you can farm food in Dragon and not an Ice Golem, then there might be some bonus incentive for you to farm Dragon as well. Fire Knight is same thing. Basically, all the other dungeons are going to be the same thing for this normal and hard mode here. Still, the old meta used to be farm stage 25. Now you really want to kind of farm stage 10 if you can. And specifically, Spider is a very popular one as well, because Spider is often one you can farm very quickly. So if you want to put a lot of points on the board very quickly, Spider Hard 10 or Spider 25 in the olden days was a really, really easy way to do it, because you could often run 10 to 15 second teams, and that would make it really easy for you to dump a bunch of energy really quickly and get a ton of points. Now, again, if you're going to be dumping about a finite amount of energy and you're going to have enough time to run all of that energy, then Spider may not be the best route for you. So that might be your Fire Knight. That might be something else. We've got Sand Devil is now an option. Sand Devil 25 is worth 400 points. Unfortunately, they've kind of tiered this a little bit differently. So it's 25 or nothing for Sand Devil for the most part. Very unfortunate. Same with Shogun. It's 25 or nothing as far as what you'd want to do from an efficiency standpoint. But again, you're putting energy, you're getting points. It's not the worst case scenario if you're getting these. And if these are double points, then it may be worthwhile to even farm a lower stage if that's what you're looking for. Iron Twins, for the most part, it is 15 or nothing from an efficiency standpoint, but honestly, you should be farming Iron Twins every day, regardless. And in fact, I've been slacking a little bit on this today, so I do need to farm a little more Iron Twins to get some more points. But I'm running lower stages, so I'm not getting a lot of points, even with this 2x, but it is bonus points. It is something you should be doing. Faction Wars is another great example of something that is great. 21 is one of the best points ways for points. So especially because you get double points for farming when you farm on the super raids. So this is 4,000 points you should be able to earn. Actually, it's more than that. It's 4,000 points per crypt you should be able to earn that you can do if you're farming stage 21. Now, if you're not farming stage 21, it's still a bunch of extra points that you should be getting. And to be fair, keep in mind that if you're farming below stage 14, you actually will get a few extra runs. So if you're in this 15 to 13 stage, farming stage 13 may actually give you a few more points than farming stage 15, because you'll get at least 1 or 2 extra runs because there's less keys involved, so you can run them a little more often. That said, you farm what you can, and you farm as much of it as you can. Faction Wars is good to be doing daily anyway. And again, these are a bunch of extra points, very helpful. Arena objectives. You do arena, you get points, nothing particularly exciting. Now, you certainly do get extra points for doing more arena, but it's not great. You also get points for just doing live arena in general. Winning crests for there, that is, I believe, per crest. So the more crests you are doing, the higher you are in live arena, the more you are getting from live arena battles. But that's probably not a time perspective fast way to do it. But again, you're doing some of it anyway. Demon Lord. This is actually one of my favorites and one of the things I like to do on my main and on my alt. Now, the Transcendent chest is your top chest in Ultra Nightmare, and then the rest of these chests are other chests you can get. What I will often do is you don't have to claim a chest the day you get it. And in fact, if you leave a chest sitting in Clan Boss, it actually will be claimable sometime later when you're ready to actually claim it. So on my main, when I get these extra keys that you sometimes can get from clan rewards in Clan v Clan, I will run all the way down to the lowest level of Clan Boss and claim those chests. And when I'm not ready to claim them, I'll let them sit in between Clan v Clan. So there are extra bonus points I can grab in Clan v Clan. Now, again, we're not talking a ton of points. We're talking 30 to 60 points, maybe 160, because you're getting 2 of these chests in most cases, but it's extra points. So run your Clan Boss key. You should be doing that anyway. Great rewards there. Gear is actually a really, really good one as well. Gear, glyphing gears can give you a bunch of extra points. So TVC is a good time to start glyphing out some of your champions, especially because it's just using. So if you actually roll badly and have to use a couple of these 6-star glyphs, that can be a lot of points. Upgrading artifacts is great, specifically, again, much like a upgrade event, you want to get to level 16 to get the most points. So you can certainly prep for this a little bit by having a bunch of stuff ready at level 15 to just go to 16 pretty quickly. That'll save you some silver. Ascension works very well as well, so you can certainly start ascending some of your gear as well. This is a good time to do it, as good as any in many cases as well. Finally, one of my favorite ones to deal with is the Forge. These don't look like a ton of points, but when you can rip off dozens upon dozens of items, in fact, you see here, this was 2x points, and I didn't forge a lot. I forged like 40 pieces, and I've used almost half of my double points here. Now, that is something to be aware of. You can only get up to 20,000 double points in any of these double objectives before they go away. So that is definitely something to be aware of, that these double points are only good to a certain point. So if you're banking the double points to get tons upon tons of CVC points, at some point in time, they will run out and you will have to go back to doing something, not 2x related if you're trying to max out your points. And then finally, one of the ones I think a lot of people don't always get, but it's definitely there. You get 1 point per gem you use. Not super exciting, but for example, on my main, because I generally have a lot of gems because I do buy the gem pack, I will quite often in CVC buy the extra keys in Iron Twins because it's 150 extra points here. This is not great. Sometimes this is doubled. It's still not great. So unless you're dumping 2 tons of gems, this is probably not going to make a big difference. But it is certainly worth noting that if you are expending gems and you were thinking about spending a gem, doing it in a CVC is probably worth a little bit more than not doing it in CVC. So one of the things we talked about was making the efficient use of your energy. And that's where the points per energy come in. So we go into Minotaur here. Minotaur 15 is 14 energy and you get 80 points. That's okay, not great. Whereas Spider 25 is worth 300 points for 20 energy. That's more than twice as much per energy point. So that's where we talk a little bit about efficiency. Now, what blurs it a little bit is, say, for example, you are able to run a stage with food and train up that food very, very quickly. Then maybe you might be better off spending the time in that particular dungeon, farming that food up as well, because that does give you additional points. On some of my accounts, for example, not this particular one, obviously, I can run Sand Devil 25 with 3 food. So running Sand Devil 25 is 20 energy. It's worth 400 points. So I'm getting the maximum amount of energy per points I can get from a dungeon. And if I can farm food with it as well, I get points for leveling up that food. Now, that's not going to be tons of points because it doesn't take a lot of these to do, but it is definitely 3 extra points that I might not be getting if I was running, say, Fire Knight, where I can't train food. So that is one of the other things you can certainly consider when you're doing your stuff. Finally, one of the things I think is overlooked greatly is Tag Arena is actually a really good spot for points. Tag Arena gives you a ton of extra CVC points for doing the Tag Arena battles, and quite often, if we do a refresh here, you can find some pretty easy to hit single teams here. So I actually do have a refresh here. I can go in here and beat up this team and get myself a couple of extra points. In fact, we'll do that quickly just to see how many points we get. So that was energy free 225 points for me to farm bronze 4. Now, I've got one of my alts in gold 1 farming on the other end, and that's closer to 700, 800. I think I've actually seen that be almost 1,000 once you're in gold 4, and that is per fight, assuming you're winning all 3 fights. And since for the most part people pull their defenses, you can often farm very easily in CVC for 3v3. So 3v3 becomes another really good place to get free points with very little investment. Finally, it is definitely worth noting that Siege, Her City, and Doom Tower do not have any points for CVC at the moment. What that does mean is what we also have called is the CVC lull on the Monday before CVC. And that is a good time for you to finish your Cursed City. That is a good time for you to finish Doom Tower. Obviously, Siege is going to happen never during a CVC, so that's really never a problem. So you can certainly set up your Siege team, build them, gear champions, whatever else. So for the most part, you want to get a ton of points in CVC, play the game, build your champions, book your champions here. Booking your champions gives you a ton of extra points, and it's a great time to kind of make sure that you build up enough books to know which champions you want to build, and be patient enough to say, I want to book this champion, I want to book this champion, and know exactly who you're going to book. Because you never know. Sometimes you might get lucky and pull somebody absolutely amazing. It is generally not a great time to summon champions because it is a progressive instead of a 2x. That said, maybe this progressive calls to you. Maybe you really, really want a Siphi, or you want one of these other champions here. Siphi's great. Other ones not quite as great. A couple guns here. Necmo would be great. Glyciad is really good. I like Stock the Broken. But of these two, these were the only two I would think I would certainly go chasing after specifically. But you don't have to be going for these either. One of the things I like to do on accounts that are more endgame, where I get shards a little more regularly because I'm farming Ultra Nightmare regularly, is I will actually pull 3 Ancients or 3 Voids every day for my daily 3 summon. Because, you know what? Why not get a chance at getting something cool and something extra? You never know. I have hit on that a couple times just randomly. I got Lady Kimmy on my main account during a CVC once. Heck, I actually pulled Odin on my main account. Now, I already had an Odin, but I took 3 and took a shot for Feedry, and I got an Odin. So, hey, that was a bunch of extra points. That was an extra 10,000 points. It could have been an extra 30,000 points if it was a new champion. And it took me 3 shards to do. But if you're trying to streamline your process, save as much as you can, and not really just yeet things whenever, just eat your mystery shards and stay away from summon. But booking is worth a ton of points. So if we go here to books, I've got 4 books here. In fact, I want to book my Ruella, so let's go find my Ruella. I have 4 books, and honestly, she needs every single book she can get. So let's throw these 4 books in here. 4 epic books got me, you gotta tell me how many points I get out of that? There we go. 4,000 points. Nice, easy, super fast points. Legendary books are about 3,000 each. Epic books are 1,000. Rares are worth less. But this is a good time to use books. You want to book most of these champions anyway. This is a great time to use them to get extra points out of them as well. Plus, saving your books gives you a shot to basically make sure that you know exactly who you want to book. Now, I've got plenty of epic champions here. Some of them could need books, some of them don't. Like Husk, he still technically needs books, but I don't care about this skill because I don't use it whenever I'd have to. So, it's not booked. It probably will never get booked if I can avoid it while I'm kind of strict on books. Durandil would eventually be nice to book because it would be nice to get these cooldowns and this extra damage on my damage dealing nuker. But I need a lot of extra utility to climb in other areas, so I've been looking for utility champions to book. So that's where Ruella comes in, for example. That's where I might book a Gorgorab if I needed some of the booking here for some of the undead faction wars. It turns out I don't. On the other hand, Fang Cleric may require these books at some point in time for faction wars. So now is as good a time as any to book him so that I have him ready for faction wars so that I can actually finish faction wars for the Dark Elves, for example. So there you go. A breakdown on ways to get points for CVC. As I said, the first rule of CVC is just to play the game. Make sure you're playing, doing your things. You might want to do a few extra things. Maybe you don't always use all your faction war keys because of time or whatever else. Well, CVC is a good time to use all of those extra faction war keys. And if you didn't, maybe farm the hard level 21. If you're not normally farming 21 for speed, it's certainly worth a few extra points because it's worth more than double the points at 20. Stuff like that, getting those extra 3v3 keys in, and then, saving your books and booking champions while you're in the middle of CVC gives you some CVC points. I've certainly, not got an endgame account right here. This is my free-to-play account. I have put up 80,000 points so far in CVC, as you can see behind me, kind of. And let's go hide myself. There, see, I've got the 80,000. That's me. And it's not the highest in this particular clan, but I am outclassed by most of the other accounts in this clan, and I'm still putting up a reasonable amount of points. I will break 100,000. I might break 120 to 140,000, depending on what kind of things I push. To be fair, one of the things I have been doing in this account is I've actually been saving my gems so I can unlock the gem mine. So in this particular case, this just happens to be a bad time for me to hit CVC. Now, if I had a bunch of extra gems, well, maybe I use the extra gems. One other thing you can certainly do to get yourself some extra points is this is a good time to use all of this energy and maybe even all of this silver that you have right here to get yourself more gear to roll up, as well as just get yourself some extra energy to be able to farm things and, get further in the game. So use this energy, use it to farm. It's a great time to use that boosted energy because whatever you do with that energy, even if it is something as inefficient as Minotaur, will still get you points in CVC. So just do stuff and CVC will be great for you. I appreciate you guys hanging out. It's been an absolutely amazing time. You guys have a wonderful day. Good luck in CVC, or, Merry CVC or Happy CVC, whatever it is if you celebrate it, depending on what side of the ocean you're on. This is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And honestly, for the most part, CVC, even if you lose, is free rewards. What's to complain about free reward? You may not get absolutely everything. And in a personal reward CVC, yeah, you may end up losing out on the personal rewards occasionally. But you know what? There's a bunch of extra stuff you get for free. You get hundreds of energy. You get a bunch of chickens. You get a bunch of potions. You get a bunch of other stuff for free just for playing the game. So why not play the game just a little bit harder, help your clan out, and maybe get a few extra rewards beyond that. So appreciate it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I will talk to you guys later. You guys are always amazing. Appreciate all the love and support. And until the next video, I'm Bront CatHerder.